I'm Joel Gregory. I look after now the UK island. That was it initially 5 years ago. Then started working with Europe and in the Middle East, and now also we've added Africa because the rest wasn't enough. Today pretty much was giving you an overview of what's happened in the last few years since the last conference in both the UK and the Middle East. Okay. Now, regarding the UK, Lee already mentioned that it's been pretty rough over there. For the last 15 months, we were in a deep recession. I think GDP dropped by about 6% over that time, and it was really at the forefront of this global financial crisis. Some of the highlights, there were bank runs and nationalisation of Northern Rock, which was one of the largest mortgages in the UK. They had an emergency merger. Gordon Brown got HBOS and Lloyds together, and then a couple of months later he had to bail them out because they were going bust. He also got together bailed out Royal Bank of Scotland, which is one of the biggest banks on the planet. So essentially they loaded up the British taxpayer with a few £1 trillion of liabilities. Here you can see people lining up at Northern Rock trying to get their money out, their life savings. And obviously the recession, it really hit the civil engineering market. They're very fortunate that the London Olympics are sort of rolling forward, so that was about the only work that was sort of left in. And the government had no money to sort of pump in stimulus money like they did say over here. Hundreds of companies went bust, and a lot of companies reduced their staff in waves of 10 or 20% at a time. So some of our London consultancies sort of dropped their staff by about 50% within a period of about 6 months. So it meant a lot of our 12D users came back home, either to Australia or New Zealand. London alone, we probably lost about 50 or 60 users. So most of those guys have been back sort of around Christmas time, so they're all sort of travelling the world on the way home, I guess. So the current situation at the moment, the pound's at a record low. If you go to London now, it's super cheap, which is unheard of. Interest rates are a lovely 0.5%. The deficit stands at 10%. There's even talks of the credit rating being dropped for Britain. Unemployment's around 9%. Which is actually not too bad compared to Ireland, which is around 13%, and Spain, which is just hovering above 20%. And also we know, of course, about Greece and the rest of the European area. So the good news is the worst seems to be over. The banks aren't being bailed out anymore, and companies are starting to grow and starting to recruit again. So for the last 2 years, any users that were looking to come over, I basically told them not to bother, and they'd be lucky to get janitor work. So there were stories of people, there were bar jobs being offered and they'd get 1,000 applicants the next day. So it was pretty intense. So over here we're very distant from the global financial crisis, but in London it was just a recession, and that's all they talked about, because they were right in the middle of it. Last time I spoke quickly about London 2012, the update there is it's actually going on track. But apparently that's one of the main benefits of the recession. There's been heaps of slack in the system, and a lot of the wages and other pressures have actually reduced the costs. It's still way over budget on what they initially planned, but in the last few years it's sort of stayed on track. So it seems like it's actually going to be delivered at fairly decent gains, which is good. Now the Middle East, with the UK being quite slow, I've spent most of my time in the Middle East, so I've wrapped up about 15 different trips, mainly to the UAE. So I thought, rather than getting specific, Tim Brooks on Sunday spoke about the Araha Beach project. He did a pretty good job there. I just thought I'd give you more of an overview of the Middle East, because some of you probably don't know too much about it, and so I thought I'd share some of the insights. So 3 main areas, basically why the region is such a high growth area, and what it's like to say live and work over there, how 12D is progressing. The main reason that the Middle East is important and growing is because of oil and natural gas. That's pretty much the sole reason. Now people say, what about, is the oil running out, all these kind of things? Well, here's the Middle East exports. See, just in the GCC area in the Gulf, got Saudi Arabia. This is exports, not what they're pumping. So yeah, 8.5 million barrels per day. So if you're selling those at the moment at $80 a barrel, that's a fair bit of money a day. We've got the UAE there at number 4. And so yeah, a lot of money being pumped into the region. Okay. And that's all those countries, if you're not aware, it's just within that Gulf area. Now, will they run out? When you look at the oil reserves, Saudi Arabia alone has 20% of the world's oil. So what's that, 266 billion barrels remaining. And then Iran, Iraq, Kuwait, UAE, they've all got tons. So they're not going to run out anytime soon. So as long as we keep filling up our cars with gas, they're still going to have tons of cash. On top of this, factor 2, Qatar there is number 14 in terms of oil. They've also got the world's biggest gas reserves. Okay, so that's why Qatar is sort of really kicking ass at the moment. Okay. So now specifically I'm going to talk about the UAE, which is where I spend most of my time. To my girlfriend's displeasement, but that's all right. Now, what people don't realise in the Emirates, it's made up of it's actually 7 different states that are all combined under the flag of the UAE. Now, Abu Dhabi there, you can see in the bright yellow, dominates the country. And then Dubai is next door, and that's probably what everyone's familiar with. Now, unfortunately for Dubai, they're actually running out of oil, and they've only got to, I think their reserves run out in 2016. That's why for the last 20 years they've been borrowing as much money as they can with the remaining oil and putting themselves on the world stage. So everyone knows the Emirates and the world's tallest building, etc., etc. So the UAE, Abu Dhabi is the capital, and then they have this legislator that where it's a common understanding that Abu Dhabi, the ruler of Abu Dhabi is always the president, and Dubai is always the vice president. One thing with the UAE, only 25% of the people are actually locals, and so 75% are actually foreigners. And in the big cities such as Dubai, I think it's only 10% of Dubai are actually locals. So pretty much all expats from every corner of the world. So considering that, it's a very harmonious place. I couldn't imagine Australia would be that nice if 90% of the people in Brisbane were foreigners. But anyway. One thing, obviously, it's a hot desert climate. In winter, you've got nice 20, 25 degrees during the day. In summer, you could get over 50 degrees. But also low rainfall, was it 100 mil a year? And that's normally, there's 2 times a year where it rains. It normally rains for a few days, usually fairly light on rain. So they don't have to worry too much about drainage design, but it is becoming a much bigger issue. Because they haven't planned for it and all their pits fill up with sand, when the rain does come, pretty much all the highways, they've got 2 lanes which are flooded. Though it doesn't rain, it is an issue. Okay, so there's the Sheikh, Sheikh Khalifa bin Zayed Al Nahyan. Yep, that's the president of Abu Dhabi. And that's pretty much Abu Dhabi right there. So you can see it's made up of, in the area, it's about 150 different islands. And pretty much where Dubai was going out and building artificial islands, they're now just building highways and everything you can imagine on all these islands and linking up to be one massive city. For the record, I guess that main island there, what's it like that there, it's something like 20 kilometres long to give you some idea of scale. So yeah, Abu Dhabi controls 95% of the oil of the UAE and 92% of the gas, so they're the kings. It's widely regarded as the richest city on the planet by a fair while. It's extremely expensive to rent there. I know a guy who has a 1-bedroom flat and it's costing him £30,000 and they've got to pay 12 months up front. So at that exchange rate, what you're talking 60,000, 70,000 Aussie for a nice 1-bedroom flat. Apparently it's really nice though. So also that, you've got really cheap cars and petrol. When we drive a decent sized car, it costs us about £7 to fill up, so we're talking $14. So yeah, you don't really care. That's why everyone's driving big Hummers, 4-wheel drives. The biggest cars in the world are all in the Middle East. And apparently the sister city is Brisbane. So. Now, the Abu Dhabi was actually fully planned in the 70s for a population of 600,000, and now it's blown way out to above that. And you can see the population there has gone, in 1960, 25,000 people. It's blown out in 50 years to 900,000. So it's like extraordinary growth. Unfortunately, they haven't planned for any car parking, so that's a bit of a nightmare. And they don't really have any sort of postal system. So addresses are normally, we're in this building behind the post office. So if you go there, definitely get a GPS so you've got no hope. Here's a picture on the wall of one of our clients. That's Abu Dhabi in 1953. I think the only permanent building there is one of the old fortresses. And then in summer, everyone left Abu Dhabi and went to Al Ain up in the an oasis town. Okay. Here we are now, and they've reclaimed all that in the front. That's all just reclaimed from the ocean, and now they've got one of the biggest cityscapes on the planet. So, bit of a difference. So living in Abu Dhabi, it is a Muslim country. It's reasonably moderate. It's not as liberal as Dubai. And each of the Emirates are all different levels. So a question I always get asked is, can you get alcohol over there? And in Abu Dhabi and Dubai you can, but you can only get it in hotels. If you want to buy alcohol from a bottle shop, you've got to actually get a license, and there's heaps of paperwork and stuff. And they limit how much you can drink every month, which is interesting. You can get pork over there, which is another question I always get asked. Actually, I've seen some of the widest selection of pork I've ever seen. They've got a massive section in all the supermarkets for non-Muslims. It's got everything from pork, bacon to suckling pig. You can get anything you want. Arabic is the national language, but everyone speaks English. There's no language barriers over there. So there's the mosque, one of the biggest in the world. I think it's the 6th biggest. So it's pretty decent. Now one thing over there, Friday's their holiday, so their weekend is is a Friday, Saturday, which means if you go out for a big night and then Friday morning you get the call to prayer first thing in the morning. So yeah, don't get a hotel next to a mosque. So about the UAE, very limited public transport network. Okay, everyone drives. That's the only way you can get around. The metro that was just opened, that's the only form of railway in the Middle East, I believe. And the drivers in the UAE are absolutely crazy. You might not want to get in a car and drive yourself, but if you get in a cab, it's even worse. So I take my own life in my hands. Actually, one guy, a cab driver, was driving from Abu Dhabi to Dubai, and he was falling asleep as he was driving about 180k an hour. So I prefer to drive myself. Now the road is actually an 8-lane motorway. It's absolutely perfect, flat, but it's actually one of the most deadly stretches of road on the planet. So there's the road in Dubai. You can see out in the background it's all desert, as you'd expect. In Abu Dhabi, every highway has green everywhere. 2 rows of trees on the side of the roads, and we're talking Dubai to Abu Dhabi is 150 k's, and the entire way it's green. That's 50 degrees, and so everything there is desalination, and 30% of the desalination is used to water their forests, as the Sheikh calls them. So obviously money's not too much of an issue for these guys. And apparently I think it's every tree planted on the road costs in its lifetime $30,000 US per tree. So do the maths, that's... Yeah. So yeah, we're driving back from... This crash actually happened the day after we drove on this road. We drove back the following day. And it involved... Basically it was a really foggy day. And everyone drives 180k an hour. So people crashed, and then people just ran up their backside, basically. There was 4 different incidences where buses got involved, trucks, and yeah, then fires caught. It was absolute mayhem. So I think it's now officially the world's biggest car pilot. Yeah, oh yeah, and of course they're driving on the right-hand side as well. So, now the good thing about Abu Dhabi, they really do think ahead, and they've got an absolutely amazing plan for transport. They've brought out this 2030 plan. Now basically it includes, they're constantly opening new highways. They've just opened up a 10-lane highway that opens up through the islands. It goes from the Formula 1 circuit into Dubai. It's about 40 k's long. They're upgrading Salam Street, which is a major road. The next 20 years you've got there 120 k's of highway around Abu Dhabi. You've got a highway going to Saudi, 130 k's in metro lines, and that doesn't include the 340 k's of tram lines and the bus lines. On top of that, you've got heavy rail, intercity, and then you've got the high-speed rail link. So that's all going to happen in 20 years. So a bit of work, So this is a map of Abu Dhabi and the plan stuff. The blue is the regional rail, the pink is the metro, and it's hard to make out that there's green absolutely everywhere, which is all the trams and buses. There's a bit of a zoomed up one for you there. You can see with them too, they're all linking up all these islands. You can see here's the road in downtown Abu Dhabi. You can see their road corridors are pretty decent. Got a few metres in the middle to spare. You've got about 5 or 6 lanes either side, and then you've got a fair bit of room for parking. So when you're talking about putting light rail down the middle, where do you want to put it? You can put one on each side if you wanted to. There's no problems there. So this is Salam Street. At the moment it's just a standard 8-lane road, but now building cut and cover tunnels for 20 kilometres so that you don't have to go through any intersections or any lights into the city. So that's just one of the roads they're upgrading. So here's the list of some of the companies that are using 12B over there. As we saw before, ACOM, Al Jaber there, they're a nice company. They have a complete monopoly on all earthworks in Abu Dhabi. So you can just imagine the billions of cubic metres they're moving around. Previously they didn't even have to tender for work, but now that they have to tender, they're actually getting software so they can do some numbers before they actually get the work. So that's where 12B came in, so they could actually do some guesses on how much earthwork they're moving around. They've got the water comms card, so there's quite a few over there. That's just some of the major ones. Some of the projects we've been working on, the Metro, Palm Island, Burj Khalifa, Khalifa Port, which is going to be a massive new port. One of our clients was talking about these labour camps that they're building with the what a crappy project. Turns out the labour camp has 60,000 people, and some of them go up to 100,000. So some of these projects which appear pretty small are actually enormous, trying to house and feed everything else. So in the Middle East, rapid speed. Everything's moving very quickly. It's very obvious. You can see 20 buildings all being put up at the same time, and things just get created super quick. All built by cheap labour. This is Satiyaat Island, one of the islands they're building. This is the latest project, I think. They've now at the moment finished off all the roading. So that highway through there is actually open now, because it goes to the Formula 1. Had to be done in time. So that's us out there on site. So at the moment it's just a big dust pit. In the future they're going to have the Guggenheim, the Louvre. It's going to be a cultural centre for Abu Dhabi. This is Yas Island. This is where the Formula 1 is. So this is next to Arauha Beach and also Satiyaat Island. So it's just another island by one of the sheikhs. There's this new capital city, which is going to be a new CBD for Abu Dhabi. And that's a hell of a lot of tall buildings to build from scratch. And apparently in the middle there is going to be that mosque that we saw before. They're just going to build a city around the mosque. We're also going to build another CBD on one of the islands as well. So Sunday there's Arauha Beach, just a bit of it. So there's some of the metro in Dubai. At the moment they've just built the red line and they're finishing off the green, although only half the stations are finished. But they've got quite a few more in plan. Basically everything's just a raised carriageway, and I think it's 45 kilometres they've built for this, and it cost, I can't remember, I think it was 15 billion US or something crazy. It blew out by 100%. So once again, at the time money wasn't an issue, but then of course they went bust, so now it's becoming a bit of a problem. But here's just one of the stations that they're building. Here's the standard, that's Sheikh Zayed Road in Dubai. And so I think normally you're looking at sort of 6 or 8 lanes on either side, then you've got access roads, and now you've got the metro, and that's the stations. So actually just the walkway, of course it's got to be air conditioned because it's 50 degrees, the walkways are just immense structures, okay, so there's a lot of work that goes in there. Also these bus shelters, we had one client that was about to adopt 12D, and they said, we can't adopt it yet because we've got 700 bus stops to do. I thought, bloody hell, you're putting a whole team on to do 700 bus stops. You guys must have problems. And then we realised that, of course, the bus shelters, they're fully air conditioned, so they've got to have power, water. They're actually really big structures, as you can see here. So a lot of those take a fair bit of time. So here's the Burj Khalifa, the world's tallest building, over 800 metres tall. It used to be called Burj Dubai. Okay, see, that's me standing there. And then I've also found this photo, which I found fun. You've seen Lee getting his hands dirty. Everyone's probably seen the Palm Islands before. And they're about, I think they're 8 kilometres long. So it takes about half Here's the indoor ski slope in Dubai. Just thought, yeah, so it's not too bad. So it's a 4-man chairlift, and that's only halfway. It then goes up. But that's nothing in Al Ain, which is out in the desert. It's part of the state of Abu Dhabi. They've got some mountains, and they're going to get a 10-kilometre section of the mountain and then put a dome on it. So they're going to have a 10K indoor run. So, that'll be cool. So, our presence in the UAE, you can see with projects like that, you can see why I keep going back. We now run public training courses in Abu Dhabi, Dubai and Qatar. We've pretty much got a man over there the whole time. Design, survey, drainage, which is all offered. And lots of different people from my office in London and also from around Australia are going there. We've set up user groups. We talk at institute events. We also help our clients with our recruitment. Obviously, they need a lot of people over there to staff these projects. Now, the standard of design and construction, it's a lot to be desired. Okay, you've got to understand pretty much everything here is built on very cheap labour. An average labourer over there is earning I think it's £120 a month, and they're working 12-hour shifts, 6 days a week in 50-degree heat. So, and also once you get a bit more technical, they're still not paying most of the guys very much, and they're very reluctant to pay for any training or to advance them at all, which is kind of silly because when they get people over there, they take their passports and they have to sign off 3-year contracts. So you'd think they train people up, but instead they just let them go, just plodding along in old manual techniques. So basically they're doing 2D designs, only designing the centre lines. Once again, it's mainly flat, there's hardly any drainage, so there's pips and centre lines, and then construction will work it out. It's pretty poor. But overall, from the people who have seen 12D and they're actually spitting out full 3D designs, there's a real thirst for it. They just don't sort of know about it, or they've just been so busy, they're just spitting out the work. There's no checks for as-built information. It's just build it and we'll pay you whatever it costs. That's what these projects are rewarded on. But now with the bust in Dubai, people are actually starting to care what the output is, what the as-built is. They're starting to actually care about how much money they're spending, where before they didn't at all. So this sort of, the Dubai crisis is actually making the industry a lot more efficient, which is good. So you can see there, us talking to the Institute of Civil Engineering Surveyors. So on here, I'd like to thank you guys, the guys up there from my staff in London, and also all the 12D Aussie staff that basically come over, spend a lot of time away from home, away from partners and wives. Certainly appreciated, you guys. Also, while I'm here, I'm also going to say the UK, we also launched a new website as well. We're also going to roll this out eventually for the Australian site, and pretty much it's just got all, at the moment it's got fairly, it's meant to be a resource for the future. So you're going to have lots of training materials and things like that. So in the coming months, we're going to build this up. Hopefully it won't just be the forum that you're online accessing. You're also going to have all these useful tools for customization and training, etc. So yeah, watch this space on that one. If you want any more information or